Okay, welcome everyone to the basics of running a Zoom virtual meeting. This is an online training hosted by Lions Clubs International. And we understand that COVID-19 is definitely changing the way we live, work, and serve. One of the biggest challenges we face as Lions is hosting meetings and conducting club functions in the age of social distancing. Today, we're going to talk about how you can use Zoom to connect with other Lions and continue your service. My name is Hannah Milligan, and I will be hosting this special webinar just for Lions. So let's get started. Again, my name is Hannah Milligan. Welcome to everyone joining us all around the world. I am an account lead with the Brand and Marketing Strategy Department, a part of the marketing team, and we are so happy to have you with us. We are also joined by Yolanda, who will be in the background here helping answering questions and conduct the meeting. So also welcome to Yolanda. So just a couple quick notes here before we begin. So some important information about the webinar. So this is being recorded. I know that was a common question that was asked. And the recording and the PowerPoint will be available afterward. It is important to note that your microphone has been muted and it will remain so during the duration of this webinar. If you have a question, we encourage you to submit it using the questions tab located in the sidebar. And I'm also going to take this opportunity to quickly walk through how GoToWebinar works. We are using GoToWebinar right now. The main purpose being is that we already have a GoToWebinar account, which allows us to have all of you with us, which is great. So in your sidebar, located on the right-hand side, just walking you through this here. So on this sidebar, you'll see this red icon here with a slash through it. That means that you are muted right now. Also over here on the right side, you'll see questions. This is the box that's highlighted in red. If you have a question, we encourage you to submit it. We will have some time at the end to answer some questions, but we may not get to all of them. So I just want to give everyone a heads up. Let's also take this time to check your audio, make sure that I know there might be some questions about that. Maybe we need to check what speakers or listening device we are using. Sometimes it might be picking up another speaker that you might be using. Okay, so getting into the agenda here, what we're going to be going through. So we're going to go through some best practices for hosting a meeting. We're also going to walk through the main thing for this event, which is hosting a Zoom virtual meeting, which does include a screen share of how to host a meeting. Then we're going to leave some time for some quick questions and the next steps. So I'm actually going to launch a quick poll here. And if we could take the time to answer this. So it should be appearing on your screen now. The question is, have you ever used Zoom before? We're just kind of getting a quick head check as to who has experience with it, who might not be as familiar with it. I'm going to give this a couple more seconds for everyone to answer. Okay, so it looks like the majority of us have used Zoom before, which is great. Okay, I'm going to quickly close this poll here. Thank you everyone for responding. Okay, so let's get into some best practices for hosting a virtual meeting. So quickly, I just want to touch on some tips for hosting an online meeting. You may or may not have hosted one. It looks like we've all used Zoom before. I know I've used Zoom not only professionally, but also hosting those one-to-one chats with my family, as I know so often we all are doing. But definitely want everyone to understand that hosting an online meeting is not something that should be intimidating. It's definitely something where if you are already hosting in-person meetings before, it's very, very similar to that, just with a couple of slight changes. Definitely preparation is key. Holding a dry run is definitely important with an online meeting. Making sure we understand how the technology works. Also, including some important information, like I did at the very beginning, including screenshots so people can familiarize themselves with the system they'll be using for the meeting. Definitely encouraging interaction. When we're in an in-person meeting, if someone is confused, we can kind of take those clues from their body language, understand if someone's not really paying attention, or maybe we need to engage them a little bit more. In an online meeting, this is something that we definitely have to work on a little bit harder because we're not able to see those visual cues and body language as much. And then the follow-up for the meeting. So this goes back to, again, hosting in-person meetings. Just conduct your normal follow-up procedures that you typically would, whether that be an email or what have you. Okay, so before we continue, I just want to note here that we will be meeting about Zoom, but there are definitely many different ways to meet virtually. We're not endorsing the use of Zoom at all. We do understand, though, that it is a very popular software, which is why this will be the first software we're going through. But we encourage you to check out other software solutions as well for this purpose. So Microsoft Teams, GoToMeeting, or Skype are a couple of options, and we encourage you to look through those and find which one works best for you. Okay, so now into the main event, hosting a Zoom virtual meeting. So before that, I'm going to touch on briefly the safety and security with Zoom. So we're going to walk through using the free account. So there are a couple different paid versions. We're going to be walking through the free version. We understand that that is probably the most used version out there. Now, I know a couple people have asked about security concerns. I know this has been on the news lately. You might have seen something called Zoom bombing, if you will. This is when an unauthorized attendee gains access to your meeting. Now, Zoom has actually been very proactive with putting some things in place to help mitigate this concern, and we will walk through those things when we are going through the actual Zoom screen share. A couple of things, though, to note: do not post your Zoom meeting link publicly. If you have a Twitter account that you are using, definitely don't copy your Zoom link and post it and blast it out to the world. Now, maybe it's a more private Facebook page where you use to conduct club business and you know everyone that is on the page. You might feel more comfortable to share that because you understand who is getting it. Definitely do not give up control of your screen. Zoom highly recommends you keep control. Only allow pre-approved users to join the meeting. We will walk through this as well. And that also includes using the Zoom waiting room feature. A couple of things that Zoom has done is they actually highly recommend you use the Zoom waiting room feature, and then also using a password to gain access to your meeting. Definitely, we encourage you, though, to check out Zoom resources. Things are constantly changing, as I know all of us understand, and Zoom is working constantly to make sure they're upping their security for their participants. So we are actually now going to take the chance to walk through the Zoom software. And right before we do that, I actually want to point out that this screenshot was taken from a Lion Club meeting, which is great. We know you guys are already using Zoom and using different ways to connect, which is so great to see. So I'm going to escape here. Okay. So now we are at Zoom. So Zoom, to get to it, you have to put zoom.us. And when you get there, you're going to find this screen. So if you haven't already signed up for a profile, you will have to sign up for a profile before you start a meeting. So I've actually already created a profile. So what I'm going to do, since I'm already logged in, is I'm going to go to my account. Now we're going to be walking through a couple of things here. So quick highlight, we're going to be walking through the profile and then settings down here and then meetings. Again, we're going to be walking through the free version. Okay, so for your profile, we see that I've already filled out my name here, and we see this beautiful lioness photo on the left-hand side. So I would like to point out that this is your profile picture, and this will be the default image that shows up when you are not using video. So it is very important for you to fill out this photo. Zoom highly recommends we do that. Over here is your personal meeting ID. Zoom also recommends that we do not share out this personal meeting ID because if someone has that, they might be able to access your meeting. Again, just being very cognizant of the Zoom security. Going down for user type, we see basic. This is the type of account that I have, just reminding me that I am on the free version. And it also reminds me that my capacity with the free version is 100 people. Going down to language and date and time. So these two are very important. We want to make sure that these match what our local preference is. My local preference is English and then Central Time. We want to make sure that these are correct to our preference because these will actually carry over to when we set up meetings. So we want to make sure we're all setting up meetings in the time zone we would like and in the language we would like. Okay, so with that, we're going to go into settings. So in settings, we're actually going to spend all of our time here in the meeting tab. For sure, you can take other time to check out these other tabs here. We're going to not touch on all of these, but touch on the main ones definitely that Zoom recommends that we touch on. So right here under scheduled meeting, we have host video and participants video. We're actually going to leave that off. So right now they're in the off position. When they are grayed out, they are off. To turn them on, we click them, they turn blue. Blue means that these settings are enabled. So we're just going to click that off again. Zoom recommends that we leave both the host video and the participants video in the off position to start. We want to give people the option to come into the meeting, and if they're not necessarily ready, including the host, if we're not necessarily ready to share our video yet, we want to give everyone the opportunity to get ready, and then they can elect to share their video later. We're not disabling this option completely, we're just giving people that extra time. Now under audio type, we're actually going to leave this pre-selected on telephone and computer audio. It is important to note though, right now, because Zoom is so popular, right now only computer audio is available. We're still going to leave this pre-selected on telephone and computer audio though. That is the official Zoom recommendation, and with everything constantly changing as we talked about, this may go back to being an option. So we just want to leave that selected. Going down to join before host. So this is something we are also going to be leaving off. The reason why we'll be leaving this off is because of security concerns. This means that when you host the webinar, you have to approve all the participants in. If we turn this to go on, that meant that people could potentially join the webinar before us, and they might not be approved to do so. Again, just for added security, we're going to be leaving this off. So we're going to be skipping down here. We see all of these password functions. As we spoke earlier about, Zoom is very cognizant of the security concerns, and they actually have required a password for every single meeting. So we're just going to leave all of this on, again, following the Zoom recommendation. Okay, going down, we see mute participants upon entry. We are actually going to go ahead and turn that on. The reason why, it comes back to exactly what we talked about with the video. So we want to give people the opportunity to get ready. Maybe their dog is barking in the background, maybe their baby's crying, maybe it's just my baby, but we want to give people the opportunity to get ready and then electively unmute themselves when they are ready. Again, we're not shutting off this feature completely. We're just making sure we give people that extra time. And we are going down. Now, who can share? This is the last thing I want to touch on. So right now we have all participants. We're actually going to change it to host only, and we're going to click save. The reason why, again, for security concerns, we want to make sure that at first only the host can share. We can open that option up later, but this is, again, another security benefit here. So that's settings. We're actually going to go into meetings, and we're going to create a meeting. Okay, so we're going to say, we're going to name this Hannah's meeting. You can write a description here. Following that best practice, we're actually going to say it's a week from now. It's also important to note with the Zoom Basic account, we only have a 40-minute time limit. So I'm going to set this at 30 minutes. When you do the paid versions, you do get more time, but now we only have that 40 minutes. So just being safe, we're going to do 30. I wanted to give a huge disclaimer that at 40 minutes, it will kick you off. I've been on a family call and it's abruptly ended my call. So we want to make sure that we stay within that 40-minute time. We'll see that all the settings we just set are carrying over. So it's recognizing my time, the meeting password, and I'm just going to hit save here. Okay, great. So we've created a meeting. So we have a couple of different options on how to invite people to this meeting. So we can click a couple of these plugins. Let's say I'm using Gmail, where it says add to Google Calendar. It will actually create a calendar invite for me, pasting in all of the information from my Zoom meeting, and I can invite people from there. We also have the option to copy this join URL, and we can share that. We can also click copy the invitation and copy meeting invitation. What this does is it copies all of this information, including your meeting password we see here down at the bottom. We can copy that here, and then we can paste it in, let's say, an Outlook calendar invite. Invite everyone we want to invite to the meeting, and then send out the Outlook invite. It is that easy. Okay, and that is how you create a meeting. So we're actually going to go right into starting a meeting. Okay, so this is where I give the caveat. Right now, it is prompting me to open Zoom meetings. So if you haven't already done so, again, being aware of that 40-minute time limit, we want to use as much time of that time as possible. So before the meeting, we would encourage all of the meeting participants to download the Zoom either web application or the mobile application. So I've already downloaded it, so I'm just going to open Zoom meetings here. Okay, and so right now, because we just have that computer audio option available, it's going to say join with computer audio. Okay, so right now it's recognizing I'm using computer audio. We're going to walk through this bottom bar here. This main screen, this white screen, is where either someone's video or your video will show up, your webcam, or it will be where your shared screen will be viewed. So right here, if I click mute and I keep talking, it's going to recognize that I'm no longer unmuted. So it's going to prompt me to unmute myself. I'm just going to leave myself muted though. The red slash over here also means that these two functions are unavailable. Now, if we are having some audio issues, this is where you can click this upward arrow here, and you can go through, and maybe you have another speaker connected that you want to use. You can click whichever speaker you would like to use. Right here, we see that my video is disabled. If I wanted to enable that, I can select enable. And again, if we're using a different camera, this is where we can select the other camera that we were using. If we want to choose a virtual background, I'm not sure if you've seen, you can put some pretty fun backgrounds behind yourself if you're using a video webcam. You can do that here as well. Moving on into security. So this is a new feature that Zoom, again, they are very aware. They're trying to make this as secure as possible. So they have lock meeting available. So let's say all of my meeting attendees have joined. I know everyone is on the meeting that I would like to join. I can just select lock meeting. It's going to put a check mark there. And what that does is it locks the entire meeting so nobody else can join. It's definitely a great security feature to use. We also have the waiting room enabled, which we'll go through in a second. Right now, you can also see what we are allowing our participants to do. So we are allowing them to chat or rename themselves. We are not allowing our participants to share their screen though. Again, that's carrying over from the settings we talked about earlier. So right now, this is highlighted in orange, which means it needs attention. So I'm just going to select Manage Participants here. And we're going to see Yolanda is actually in the waiting room, and she is waiting to join the meeting. So if I wanted to, let's say I don't know who Yolanda is, I can actually remove her, again, an extra security feature here. But I do know who Yolanda is. She's a great coworker, so I'm going to go ahead and admit her. And it is going to allow her to join. We also have over here a chat function. So if we click this chat function, again, if it needs attention, Zoom is going to highlight it in that burnt orange color. We can see that Yolanda, hello Yolanda, has sent everyone in the meeting a message, which is just her and I. She says hello. So I can either send her back a message and everyone else will see it, or I can send her a private message. Let's say I just want to say hello just to Yolanda. We can see in the red, it is highlighted. It is a private message. And so that is just a message between Yolanda and I. Over here, I know this is the main event. So screen share. This looks slightly intimidating, but we're going to walk through it together. So in the top left-hand bar, we have the screen highlighted in blue. What that means is it is sharing everything on my screen. Now, right now, I'm only working on a laptop, so I only have one screen to share. Let's say that I am working on 2 monitors, or I would only like to share a specific application. I can actually click on the specific application, let's say this PowerPoint here, and it will only show this PowerPoint. It will only show this PowerPoint no matter what else is on my screen. Down here, we also have the option, let's say we want to share a YouTube video or another type of video. We need to make sure that we select Share Computer Sound and Optimize Screen Sharing for Video Clip. That will allow us to view the video unencumbered. So I'm going to X out of this here. Let's say I would like to record the meeting. So I'm going to hit record. It is now recording the meeting. I can either pause the recording at any time. I can also stop the recording. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that. Now at the end of the meeting, it's going to prompt us to share that locally. We'll see that again later. So I'm also going to take this opportunity to end the meeting. Yolanda and I, we've had a great meeting, but it's time to call it quits. I can either end the meeting for everyone, or I can leave the meeting as the host. It is important to note, though, that as the host, if you are leaving the meeting, you need to assign another host before you leave. I'm just going to end this meeting for all, though. And now it's converting my meeting recording, and it will eventually prompt me to save it locally. Okay. So going back, that was Zoom. I know, it's crazy. So definitely we want to encourage the use of Zoom resources. They have so many great resources out there. They have daily, weekly trainings. They have videos. I've watched several videos before this, trust me. They're very helpful. We also offer a couple blogs here that you might find helpful. We also have a blog post on our Lions Club's international website that we would encourage you to go check out, which goes a little bit more in depth into how to host a virtual meeting. So at this point, we would like to open it up for any questions. Okay. Let's see what questions we have here. Okay. A Zoom webinar versus a Zoom meeting. Okay, so that relates to the type of plan that you purchase. So right now we are using a free Zoom basic account. So that is not a Zoom webinar account. But if we wanted to create a Zoom webinar, we would have to use a paid subscription. We also got a question about breakout rooms. So that function is available, but again, that is through the paid account. And what that allows you to do is actually have many meeting rooms that you can host. Might be helpful for your use during your individual club meetings. So recording the meeting is only a host function. That's definitely something that you as the host will have to start. Just looking through the questions here. And this is where I would also encourage you to check out Zoom. They go through, they have a comparison plan of all of their different plans. They show a side-by-side of what you can and cannot get according to which plan it is. We got a question about the format for the recording. We just want to confirm that it is an MP4. We got a question about how easy it is to run a video recording during a meeting. Thank you for asking that. It is very simple, but we do recommend you would click those two buttons on the bottom of the screen share function before you launch the recording. And then a question about maximum time for meeting. I want to highlight this again, that with the free basic account, we only get 40 minutes. I know that seems like an odd time, so we would recommend that your meeting is 30 minutes, and then maybe use that 10 minutes afterwards. So getting people into the meeting, the password for the meeting is actually within your invitation. And actually, I'm afraid that will have to be our last question. So before we end here, I'm actually going to launch one more quick poll here. We would encourage you to fill out. We just want to see if this webinar was helpful. This is the first in kind of this series of trainings that we're doing. We definitely want to make sure that we're providing Lions, you guys, with helpful materials and resources. I also want to highlight that the webinar recording in PowerPoint will be available shortly. Zoom has great customer service. I know I keep pushing their resources, but they really do have great customer service. We would recommend, if you have any more questions, to visit that. And definitely stay tuned for more online events that we will be hosting. So I'm going to close this poll out. Thank you, everyone, for joining the meeting. We appreciate it. We appreciate your service, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.